Interesting, after a half hour.
No, but it's been nice.
Right. Oh, so I'm only allowed so much time.
I've never had that before, but
Yeah. Are we long? If you're, can I go now?
yeah.
Thank you.
And so.
Okay, sorry for that delay. We had YouTube issues. Who knew? It times out after a while and you have to redo it. Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'll just go back through a series of questions. So where should the para payments come from?
I believe Timberon Water and Sanitation District would have to work that out amongst themselves and their accountant.
Okay, and so were you here this morning and listened to the testimony of Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I was.
And what are the sources of funding? I'm sorry, what are the sources of revenue for Timberon?
Accounts receivable, states water services and fees, trash collection, recreational fees, facilities and service fees. And those are water monies, portion of those. Your trash collection, which is not regulated by the PRC. If you're just collecting trash, you're not running a septic system. That's a possibility.
So of the sources of revenue with regard to the water, the FNS and the standby fees, it would have to come from one of those sources, correct?
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I said it could come from the trash collection fee, which is not set. It's on the water bill, but it's a separate service provided by the government entity, Timberon Water and Sanitation District.
Given the amount of payment, are you aware of the amount of payment that Timberon made with regard to the para payments?
Yes, and that was for prior years.
Could it
And-
come from the taxes? The property tax?
Yes, it could come from that revenue as well.
Go ahead, sir.
But when there have to be an increase in taxes,
The 234,000 expenditure for para was for previous years. According to my calculation on an annual basis, it would be 70,159. I should,
and that's an estimate with regard to annual payment.
correct.
And Timberon doesn't have taxing authority, do they?
They're a government entity and they're billing property taxes according to their statement. Non-operating revenue, property tax.
But my question was whether or not you are aware that does Timberon have taxing authority?
According to their statements, it appears they do.
Or does the county have the taxing authority? Do you know?
I can't say I know for certain.
But that would be an additional monthly cost as well, correct? One way or another from some source, correct?
It would be additional cost for Timberon Water and Sanitation District, the government entity.
Ms. Dashno, do you even know how many, since you previously testified that the records submitted by Timberon to the commission or the records that you have reviewed appear to be commingled?
Yes.
Do you have really an accurate idea of what the water only expenses and revenues are?
I do not. They did not provide that. And I really have been basing all my analysis on this one statement. They have their water service and fees, then they have their water utilities, where they're expending $726,752. And that's the best information I have to go off of.
Do you know how many employees they actually have doing water?
According to the testimony of, can't remember his last name, the first witness for Timberon,
Mr. Harding,
Mr. Harding, 6 people, that's what he stated.
do you know whether there's 6 full-time employees that are doing water only?
I know he said 90%, I don't recall if they were all full-time,
Well,
but 90% of their work is water, according to him, is what he
Okay.
testified to.
all right. There's also a billing clerk. In addition to those 6 people, did you consider that person?
I did not.
Do you know whether or not that person is attributing 100% of their time to water only?
I do not.
Do you have any independent knowledge other than the testimony that you heard yesterday from Mr. Harding?
No.
Go ahead, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'd like you to turn to page 3 of your testimony, please.
I'm there.
And at line 15, you state, did Timberon provide responses to requested information to question 1 of the bench requests? Do you see that, and have I correctly stated that?
Yes, but I would need to pull up the bench request to accurately respond. That's okay.
Okay, and question 1, if I may, from the bench request reads, In 2015, TWSD received a $320,000 pre-development loan to cover engineering design work and related expenses from RCAC.
Correct?
Okay, I've read that correctly?
Yes.
And then there's a series of questions that follow. Are you aware that there was no 2015 loan, that it was actually a 2013 loan from the testimony that's been filed?
Yes, I did hear that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had that clear for the record. I also have a question concerning the staff exhibit 3. If you could turn to staff exhibit 3, please.
Yes.
What is the horizontal line drawn across beneath the 5th line entry? Or at least it shows up as a horizontal line on mine. Maybe there isn't one, but
I think it's, well, it's to show where. Let's see. It may have been trying to reflect,
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I may have been trying to reflect the difference in usage, where if you look from the gallons of usage, 4,000 to 4,999, you have monthly revenue coming in of 2,560, and then start at 5,000 to 5,999. For the larger water usage, your revenue is less. So I think that is the line separating that usage and the revenue collected from it.
And your chart overall, are you familiar with the concept of increased cost as a conservation charge for the more water that's being used?
Is that also known as inclining block rates, Mr. Albright?
Inclining block rates, yes, Madam Hearing Examiner, good clarification there.
Somewhat.
Have you heard of that before?
I've heard the
Ms.
term.
Deschanel?
I have heard the term, but I am not rate design that's not my area of expertise, but yes, I am familiar with the term.
Okay, fair enough then. Would you admit that, or at least confirm that, as the amount of water increases, there is an additional charge associated with the increase in use, particularly as you get into higher use?
I'd have to go back and look at the charge on their rate schedule.
Okay, that's fair enough. And you already made the change to exhibit GSD1 that I also had as a question. So with that, I have no further questions for Ms. Deschanel. Thank you very much for your testimony and your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Albright. Ms. Deschanel, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just have a few questions, as I guess is the policy for the witness on Friday afternoon. It always seems to happen. I think I've already asked you about what your ability to analyze the documents has been in this particular case. I would just like to confirm and see if I can pull it up. You utilized, perhaps after your testimony had been filed, the exhibits that had the audits.
Yes,
The Timberon exhibits 5, 6, 7, and 8, which were the financial audits.
that's correct.
Okay, so you've looked at those, right?
I have.
And I think you've, in questions this afternoon, you've indicated that that's for all of Timberon Water Sanitation District, not just Timberon Water, correct?
Correct.
And just generally, as it relates to your testimony on page 6, answering the question posed on page 5, line 31, does staff have any concerns with the financial data supplied by Timberon? And then on page 6, you answer yes. Based on the documentation submitted, this is at line 1, Timberon has no assets. That was your testimony?
That was,
Okay. But after having looked at some of this supplemental data, including these financial audits, specifically exhibits 5, 6, 7, and 8, they indicate that Timberon does have some assets, don't they?
I agree, yes.
Okay. And again, I mean, do you have an ability to know what might be owned by Timberon, the water, and as opposed to Timberon, the rest?
Well,
Do you understand my
I
question?
do understand your question, and I want to say it's in exhibit 8.
Okay, I'm on exhibit 8. Where do you want me to look?
I'm just, well, one thing just to know on my answer here, I looked at the annual report they filed for the commission and there were no assets on that.
Noted.
And as I've been looking through it, in testimony, Mr. Harding said that they installed SCADA in 2021. And that has a 10-year depreciation. And he said they're fully depreciated already. So I did have some questions about that. But I want to make sure I lead you to the right exhibit because they did provide an asset sheet with a straight line depreciation and the amount of years that have a date of when they came into service. And I apologize for not knowing exactly which exhibit that is in it. And I think I'm prepared. It is in their annual report. I'm sorry. If you pull up their annual report, they did provide their book asset detail. And I did.
What page?
It's the, it's not labeled with the page, so I would say page 8 of the PDF.
Okay, I'm on page 8 of the PDF.
Book asset detail.
Okay,
Okay, and I think I can only use this first page because the second page is cut off. So you have infrastructure water system. And like I said, I saw the summary page of this report and didn't even go down into this and see. I saw they just didn't have assets. They have many assets put into service in 2018. And then if you scroll across all the way right, book method, I want to say that it's straight line. I'm speculating here because,
Okay, well,
and a 40-year maybe amortization. But I could be.
I need you to keep your voice up, please.
I could be incorrect on that, but I just wanted to have that in the record that there is a portion of accounting for their water assets here.
okay. So they had the sheet, but did they actually include the amount in the,
They did not include it in their annual report. It's
Okay.
empty.
but this would actually indicate that there's at least a book value of $4,632,795.06 in water system infrastructure. Correct?
I'm sorry, where did you get the number from?
From the bottom of the page, third column from the end.
Correct, yes.
Again, that's a book. A net book value. Okay, so they do have some assets. They're not all depreciated. That's the conclusions that you came to, correct?
Correct.
And that potentially these assets, this infrastructure is owned, could be attributed per accounting principles to the water utility, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, what do you think about that, Ms. Dashino? I mean, based upon the records you've seen and knowing what kind of usual allocations and attributions that the commission and your bureau, the accounting bureau, actually utilizes, do you think it's possible for them to provide reports and documents solely attributable to water?
I believe they should be able to do that because they know what they're collecting monthly in water revenue. They have these assets here and they have an accounting firm with a CPA who has assisted them with things. And I think if they employed an accounting firm or a CPA, that firm should be able to decipher based on accounts and receipt history, what they've paid to this system and what they've received from this system.
I'm just trying to figure out, are we asking them to do the impossible?
I don't think so. If it's broken out a little clearly here on their statement of revenues expenses, I mean, they know what they get from recreational fees. Their facility and services is water. They have water services fees. Can parks and recreation be billed to the water company? I feel that's more of an entity cost. Cemetery, golf course, none of that appears to be water to me. Depreciation expense, it's possible, and once they figure out their totality of their assets and how much longer they can depreciate them.
What about their land? I mean,
Well, their land definitely has some water on it, I believe, and I think you can see it down here. Their land, they have a golf course and a pro shop, community center and land improvement. 8 lots. Golf course land investment, water system land, they correctly identify it here.
well, I'm just wondering, that was a question when, did you see in one of the documents that we looked at today that there was an amount for land sales?
I don't recall that.
that they sold some lots.
Okay.
Do you recall that testimony? And I'm just wondering, whether or not that was unique, having the the water company sell, part of its assets that way. If you
don't
know.
what to respond to that.
Okay. Okay, so we don't know exactly how much, or do we? Do you know how much money the request that they're asking for is going to potentially generate for them?
I do not. I can, once again, going back to the statement, if you look at total operating revenues increase, their statement at the bottom of management discussion and analysis
Of which it's the exhibit.
of exhibit 8.
Is that the one I'm on?
It should be, we were on.
I'm on
the
their annual report.
Right, so it'd be exhibit 8. And page 7, back to that.
Okay, I don't think that. We're looking at the annual report.
No, exhibit 8. Wait, am I giving you the right exhibit number? I apologize. Yes, it is exhibit 8. Page 7.
Okay, so you're looking at the financial audit.
Yes,
Okay, and you're looking at page 7. Okay.
okay. So if we look at the statement on the bottom, total operating revenues increased by 76,210, mainly due to an increase in water
Okay.
revenues. Now, I can't say for certain, but they did get a rate increase in 2021, where they filed their advice notices and they were processed.
Okay.
And I don't know if this could be an impact of that, but to me, that seems like very little money from a rate increase that could provide for what they're needing.
Okay, but if you take the total operating. So what you're saying is that by looking at this particular audit report from their commingled expense and revenue for 2022, that you don't believe that the request that they're asking for now is going to make much difference?
Just from what I'm seeing, but I don't have the exact numbers. So if they provided that, then we would know.
Okay. Would you care to opine on staff's recommendation with regard to a potential bond or the potential cost to implement the conditions that staff has required, and how that might be impacted by the revenue analysis, the revenue and expense analysis that you were able to do with the documents you were provided?
Mr. Martinez said it would have to be dependent on what they expended on an analysis of their system. And they have, obviously, they stated also that what they've applied for in these grants are not guaranteed. So I can't I shouldn't comment on the financial aspect of it without having the numbers in front of me.
Are you aware of any other situation where the commission has required a bond?
I am not.
Are you aware of any other water and sanitation district that the commission has had before it?
I am not.
Thank you, Ms. Dashno. I believe that's all the questions that I had for you. Mr. Bagatko, do you have any redirect for your witness?
No redirect for Ms. Dashno, thank you.
Mr. Albright, do you have any questions based on my questions?
No, Madam Hearing Examiner, I don't.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Dashno. You are excused, and please make sure that your attorney puts the corrected version of your testimony in the Dropbox.
Thank you, Madam Hearing
And
Examiner.
file it. It has to be filed with the commission. Thank you. Very well. Mr. Bagatko, anything further from staff?
Nothing further from staff. Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner.
Very well. It appears that we have concluded, at least for now, the evidentiary portion for the witnesses who had filed the testimony in this case. As some housekeeping matters, I would like to go over the bench requests that were issued during this case so that parties are clear and that I am clear on this. Oh, let me note for the record that there were no intervention requests, and there were written comments made in this case. My understanding of the bench requests that were issued were: bench request 1, any engineering updates or plans or studies that the district had in its possession would be provided. Bench request number 2 was answered yesterday, and that was the number of standby customers, and that was 3,911. Bench request number 3 is that Timberon will file an amended annual report. That amended annual report will include the revenue, expenses, and customer numbers, differentiating the different types of customers, please. Bench request number 4 was our disconnect or other water fees included in the annual report? If so, where and in what? I'd like to know in what category. I believe.
Madam Hearing Examiner, could you just repeat that one for me, please?
Yes, that was Commissioner Aguilar's bench request. And he wanted to know, when we were looking at some revenue numbers that were attributed to metered sales, we'd like a further breakdown of that. And he wanted to know whether or not disconnect or other fees had been included in that amount. I think there was probably an assumption that they were, but we want that clarified. And that probably should be broken down in the annual report to show of the revenues, water standby, water coming from the actual water, the water, like, for example, what the prior, your proposed are 18 and 19. So whatever if there were, like 16 and 17. So break it down from the customer charge and commodity, the standby, and then like other fees, so that the commission has a breakdown of where those things are coming from.
Thank you,
So-
Madam Hearing Examiner. That's helpful. Thank you.
That was my recollection of the 4 bench requests. Does anybody have anything different than what I've said? Not hearing anything, we're going to go with those 4. And the question will be, Mr. Albright, how soon, especially all of the items are really important. How soon can we get these bench requests filed with the commission?
Madam Hearing Examiner, I'll just have to check with my client and availability to consult with our accountant as well.
Okay,
That they
and
have-
I'm sure,
As I mentioned, I made the request before and they could not accommodate the short schedule to the hearing, but I will get back to the folks that are doing that.
okay, so time is of the essence, so as soon as possible. It'd be great, if they could be in just a few days, that'd be awesome. But you can let us know as soon as possible there, Mr. Albright. So with that, does anybody have anything procedural? Just to make sure, yeah, I said in the amended in bench request 3, I want the exact numbers, just like we got the exact number for standby. I think I pointed out the discrepancy in different testimonies yesterday, where the customer count was 900 in one place and 800 in another place, and just want to have those accurate numbers. So, so that the commission can have that information, like you say, as soon as practicable. Any further procedural matters that we need to discuss?
Oh, do I need a new download link, or can I go back to the old one I have to get whatever's been updated?
I think you can probably use the same download link, Melissa. If you can't, let me know, and I will make sure that that you get that. Okay. Any other procedural, Mr. Albright?
Yes, just one with regard to the transcript. When would we anticipate that would be available?
I've been told 3 days, 3 business days, and I'm thinking I'm going to aim for Tuesday morning, which is a little in advance of that. I've got to get today's done, which is a bit, but
That would be great.
yes, I will do.
Normally the applicant is the one that has to incur the costs for an expedited transcript. I will leave that to the commission. I'm not going to order it because I didn't order the expedited transcript, so it's going to be in this commission's discretion. How that is accommodated. And I guess the only other than Melissa, thank you so much for accommodating us. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the participants, Mr. Albright, Mr. Bagatko, Ms. Dashino, and the other witnesses. Thank you for your appearance, and I will recess this hearing pending further direction from the commission. So I thank you all, and our meeting is recessed.
Thank you,
Great.
Madam Hearing Examiner.